My senior project is called Expand Casa Hogar, or Where Do the Children Play? You might wonder about the repetitive title. That is because mine is the second of 2 senior projects in a series. My sister Ariana, who presented her project last year, started a nonprofit called Expand Casa Hogar. So this past year I have focused on expanding and continuing the work of that nonprofit. Expand Casa Hogar raises money for a children's home in Oaxaca, Mexico called Casa Hogar Hijos de la Luna, which means the home of the children of the moon. Casa Hogar Hijos de la Luna cares for the children of women who are single, who work at night, often in bars or as prostitutes, and have no money to afford childcare or really have no safe home to provide for their children. And Casa Hogar is pretty much the only cheap option for them to provide a safe place to live and education and food and just a really healthy atmosphere to grow up in. Casa Hogar was founded in 2001 by Maria de Socorro Ramirez Gonzalez. My sister and I first came into contact with Casa Hogar in 2010 when a friend of ours took us to volunteer there and play with the kids, and we immediately fell in love because it's just a really beautiful place to spend time with some really sweet children. And Ariana was so touched by Casa Hogar that she traveled back to Oaxaca in 2011 for her work experience. And while she was there, Doña Coco, the founder and head of Casa Hogar, told her that they were really stressed out about space because they were caring for about 46 children in a 2-bedroom space, which is incredibly crowded, and they really could not, there just was no more room for more beds, but there was constantly a need for more children to be cared for, and they were worried that they might have to send some of the older children back to their mothers, which obviously not a healthy living environment. So this was definitely the last option, and they were really hoping for to be able to expand, but they didn't have the money. Monthly expenses for food and diapers was difficult, and so Ariana decided that for her senior project she wanted to help them raise money to build on. And so she traveled down to Oaxaca again in the summer with Ian Pollard, another alum from Waldorf, and he created this beautiful video which explains a lot about the project.
Tratar de vivir como una familia. O sea, no es albergue, no es, no sé, orfelinato, no. Es precisamente una casa, un hogar, pero con más niños de lo normal, con 44 niños. Mira, nosotros albergamos a niños y a niñas que viven situaciones de riesgo. Nosotros nos dedicamos a albergar a hijos de madres solteras y por lo regular, o a los niños a los que más apoyamos, son a hijos de madres que trabajan de noche. Algunas son sexoservidoras. Yo seguiré cantando viva la costa con mi norte. Nosotros tenemos, por ejemplo, 4 personas que perciben salarios para el área de cocina, de lavado, la maestra que tenemos. Tenemos la maestra que viene desde las 10 de la mañana hasta las 6 de la tarde para todos los niños. que aparte del apoyo de la escuela se les dé aquí apoyo con tareas. Nosotros queremos ampliar nuestro proyecto para seguir albergándolos, para seguir teniéndolos, pero vamos a necesitar recámaras aparte porque pues ya son adolescentes. Nosotros tenemos un área, por ejemplo, con un dormitorio bastante grande en donde tenemos la población que es de puro niño, vaya, de edad entre de 6 y 10 años, 11 años. Y otra área para las niñas grandes. Y el área para los pequeños, porque también tenemos menores de 4 años, pues bastantes, ustedes los han visto.
Con esa verdad, no lo digas, no me hagas que llore.
Eso es lo que queremos cambiar, el techo de lámina por un techo de concreto para poder hacer otras habitaciones en la parte de arriba para seguir albergando a estos chiquillos. Mira, es que como nosotros nos enfocamos a apoyar a niños de mujeres que trabajan de noche, estos niños por lo regular siempre la noche es la más sola que pasan, porque mamá se va a trabajar, porque los dejaba encerrados en algún cuarto, porque tenían que quedarse bajo resguardo de la luna, porque no tenían a nadie más, ¿no?, a quien recurrir.
Ya candundaba animayo, ya chitoy na shakabakubi. Sutumani yundioyu Nyande chionya no kucha iyo Nyande eta akani no taanya Nyachito ina shakabakui.
Alright, so this video was created in 2011, and a couple of things have changed since then with the situation. For one thing, they have about 52 kids now, but also the plans for how to expand have changed. So here I drew sort of a little map, bird's eye view. Here you see in green Casa Hogar's current building and the little office next door. They were planning, as you heard, on building a second story, but realized where would everyone sleep while they were doing construction? It wasn't really feasible. So they instead thought that they would buy the property outlined in pink that says play area. But after reconsidering, they realized, well, for one thing, it was going to be much more than the $50,000 originally anticipated, and they decided the best option would be to buy the property on the left, which says rented property. Pretty soon after Ariana and Ian were in Oaxaca at this and making the video, Casa Hogar began to rent that house, and it contained space for about 20 children. So now the goal became to buy that property and then hopefully build onto the building to have even more space. Changing the goal, as you can see, to about $76,000 US dollars. All right, so Ariana had left me with so much to move forward with. She had done so much work. So we had a blog and a Facebook page. We had a global giving page, which is really pretty difficult to obtain, where we can accept donations. I had a mentor and a fiscal sponsor in Cynthia Perez and her sister Livy, who of La Peña here in Austin, a nonprofit. And this meant that we can make our donations tax deductible. And she had raised $23,000. So can add that onto the thermometer for fundraising. And my question was, where to next? Because I knew if I was going to even make a dent on this project, where Ariana had already done so much, I would need some fresh ideas because we had already asked so much of our immediate community. Some of the ideas that I had were requesting help from nonprofits in Oaxaca or grant writing, But I realized that grant writing is a very lengthy process, and 9 months probably wouldn't be enough time to write the grants and hear back from the givers. And also, when we considered asking help from governmental organizations in Mexico, we ran into the problem that Doña Coco often shelters children of illegal immigrants from other Central and South American countries, and this would, the governmental organizations wouldn't be allowed to help her because of that. So I focused instead on increasing the web presence by posting more on the blog, on the Facebook page, and using a Facebook ad. And so some of the results that I had from last summer until now, obviously lots of posts and lots of images I put up, and the Facebook ad was really effective. We only spent about $50, and we now have 802 more Facebook friends. And then the next idea was uniting the volunteers that Casa Hogar already has, because so many people are very passionate about volunteering there, but the difficulty is most of them are tourists who are in Oaxaca for a couple weeks or a couple months, and they're hard to locate, and there's not really a database for how to communicate with them. So I was sort of hoping that by increasing web presence, it would be easier for anyone who started Googling them, trying to help out, who remained interested, to find us and help out with the fundraising. So one of the results here was being contacted by Alex, another Casa Hogar volunteer, and he suggested that we raise money on an online competition called The Give, which is hosted by a California wine company called cultivatewines.com. And they choose 30 different nonprofits to compete. They have, we have 2 months to win the most votes, and the votes have to come in through Facebook accounts. And the top project wins $50,000, and the next 5 projects win $10,000 each. So we had a couple of different strategies. This competition started in September, and we would find out who won in late October and November. So again, Facebook ad, and we also passed out 1,000 wristbands at ACL, which was probably one of the toughest parts of this project, because if you can imagine standing on the Mopac Bridge while everyone's filing through, ready to go to ACL, and having to run up to people, try to explain the project, try to explain the competition, and hand them a bracelet with the web address, because we were hoping they would become interested and just go home and vote because it was so easy. But it really takes some courage, and I had my family there helping, and Marilyn Schwartz there helping, and a couple of friends from Switzerland, and it was tough, but we got them all passed out. So because people could vote every single day, I had to remind the Facebook members to vote. So the reminder started to take a certain look after my sister and her friend Oliver Koo sent me this photo. So I started creating similar reminders with pictures from Casa Hogar. And these were they were convenient for people to share, to remind their friends, and they're sort of cute, so they're less annoying, I think, and that was our main strategy. Okay, and then the most important ingredient was the help that we received from friends, from other people who were interested in the project, which is a lot of help. It came in different ways. For example, there was a photographer named Hector Cesar who sent me this photo from Casa Hogar, and it just really helped to liven up reminders and things like that to receive photos. And then just people sharing, telling their friends about the project, whether on Facebook or in person, and voting every day was so important. And you all helped out a lot with that. So meanwhile, there were a couple other fundraising endeavors that I carried out. One of these was a benefit concert, which Thales Smith was very generous to play. It took place in October, and a little over 40 people went, and we raised a little over $600, although some of that went to renting the space. And then also, I fundraised on another website called Indiegogo, which works around a timeline, and raised about $4,000 that way. So, I can add on. We were also featured in a local publication called Ahora Sí with the help of my mentor Cynthia, and hoping to get more votes that way. And next, I contacted a member of my church who had spoken with my sister about maybe interviewing her on the local news station, Your News Now, but Ariana had sort of fallen out of touch with this man, but I decided to try again. And they said within a couple of days, we set up the interview, and I was really nervous about it. It took place before school one morning in front of the gym, you can tell. And it was run on News on the 8th, so it was shown, I think, 6 times an hour for 24 hours. And we were just really hoping that this would help direct traffic to the site and maybe get us some more votes on the Give competition. But at first, it seemed like by the end of the day, around 8 o'clock, not a lot had happened. We felt like, maybe it hadn't brought in much interest. But we sat down to dinner, and I received a phone call from my sister Ariana, who was crying, and she said, "Did you see the email?" And I said, "What email?" "No," and "Is it good or bad?" And she wouldn't tell me. I had to go look, start up my computer. It took a minute, and then what I found was an email from a local woman in Austin who had seen the interview and decided that she wanted to donate $30,000 to Expand Casa Hogar. So I don't know if you can imagine, at that point we had about $27,000 raised after a year and several months of working. And at this point, I had been putting in so many hours every week working on the concert, working on the competition, and it felt like sort of nothing was pulling through very much. I was thinking, I'm not going to be able to add much to what Ariana's already done. And then all of a sudden, our amount is more than doubled. So, very exciting. Next, we also, just a couple weeks later, had success in the competition on cultivatewines.com, and we won $10,000. All right, so now we're sort of zooming to the present. I took this picture 3 weeks ago when I traveled back to Oaxaca for work experience. The funds from the Give finally arrived, and when everything was together, we realized we were only missing about $5,000 US to purchase the land with the rented property. So I sent out, as usual, sort of an update to everyone who had donated, and within, I think, a day or two, I heard back from the same woman who had donated $30,000 saying that she wanted to see the purchase of the house through, and she would donate the remainder. Oh my God. All right, so these are, again, pictures from the last 3 weeks. This is a shot of the property that is going to be bought from the original house, and that is the bedroom upstairs, which has room for 20 children and a bathroom, and downstairs they have the water purifier and other storage space. And another update is they now have a really nice trampoline, which is a lot of fun. So, when you take away sort of some fees from fiscal sponsorship and from global giving, the money we've sent is closer to $68,000. And Casa Hogar is currently in the process of purchasing that land. This is a view from the street, sort of a panorama that I tried to put together. The blue is the house that is rented that we're going to buy, and the green is the house that they own right now. So here are just a few things that I learned during this process. One of them is sometimes it takes so many tries before something pulls through, and you can feel very desperate. But if what you're aiming for is worth it, then you just have to keep pushing sometimes. And so I don't know if you can read that, but it says, "You never know how close you are. Never give up on your dreams." This is really how I felt during those weeks. before the $30,000 donation and the give money came in, like nothing was working, and then all of a sudden just everything sort of fell out of the sky. And this was, the airplane represents just a really exciting moment during the project when I sort of realized that people were pushing for votes, people were donating who I had never met, who I didn't know how they were connected to the project, and that the project had begun to sort of propel itself and inspire people on its own without Ariana or I having to sort of nudge it along so much, and that was really inspiring to see how the story touched other people. Okay, so I have a lot of thank yous, really huge thank yous, to, for one thing, Ariana for handing me this beautiful, amazing project that she had worked so hard on. I thought that was incredibly generous, and she's been really a huge part of this and really supportive still through the entire process. To my mom for helping me out so much the entire time. Couldn't have done it without her. My whole family for all of their help. To Cynthia and Olivia Perez, my mentor, and fiscal sponsors. Ian Pollard for the beautiful video and for all his support. To many people in Oaxaca who helped me out. To Casa Hogar for all that they do. To Taylor Smith for his concert. To my church for their support. To my wonderful class for making every day so much fun at school. And to Marilyn for helping pass out the wristbands. That was a really big sacrifice. To Molly for helping at the concert. To Aaron for always being super supportive. And to Dana for helping me practice my presentation. To the Waldorf Spanish teachers. Anyone called Senora at Waldorf was very supportive of this endeavor. And YNN and Ahora Sí for featuring us. And everyone, all the donors and supporters, whether I know who you are or not. So, any questions? Are there any questions? Oh,
What's next?
well, for right now, as I said, they're purchasing the land, and they're still, Casa Hogar still would like to add on to this land. So we're going to keep the Global Giving page open, keep the Facebook page open, and continue to update donors and supporters. And so people can still donate, and the money will still go to them and will still be hugely appreciated. As for Casa Hogar, they have quite a few programs that they're also trying to work on. For example, they actively give loans and to the mothers of the children if they would like to learn another profession. For example, if they want to become a hair cutter, they will pay for their school fees, and they will give them loans for scissors, for supplies if they need. So. Yeah?
How are the mothers involved in the children's lives at the house?
It really depends, on the family. Some of the mothers take the kids for the weekend, some of them take them at night, some of them work at Casa Hogar as cooks or other things. It really depends. And then often when they sort of feel that they've gotten back on their feet, they'll take the kids back. And they're sort of asked to pay a little bit every month to help with the fees, but most of them can't afford it.